Why did you decide to write a book on Quran? Why do you think there is stuff that every American should know about the Quran?
Right. Well, the Keith Ellison sworn to Congress as the first Muslim with his hand on a Quran. It was Jefferson's Quran. And the news media said, "Isn't this wonderful? Jefferson must have loved Islam." And I was like, he fought the Muslim Barbary pirate wars against the Muslims. And so I thought somebody has to set the record straight. And so Muhammad was a warrior. He fought in 66 battles and raids. And so his men would raid caravans, but then they went to the Mediterranean and they would raid ships. And they would raid the coast of Spain and Italy and France and bring the slaves into North Africa. They enslaved over 1 million Europeans. There were whole Catholic orders in Europe through the Middle Ages called the Trinitarians, and the head of the order was called the ransomer.
The Muslims enslaved Europeans?
Correct. Yeah, and then they also enslaved blacks. So Muhammad was a white Arab. There are hadiths that says Muhammad was the white man reclining on a couch. Another hadith, he was lifting his arms. They saw the whiteness of his armpits. Another hadith, he was on his donkey. It rubs up against somebody else. And the guy said, "I saw the whiteness of the prophet's thigh." And Muhammad owned black slaves like Bilal. And so Islam enslaved tens of millions of Africans, castrate the men, make them eunuchs, sell the women into sex trafficking. Timbuktu, where the canoe meets the caravan, was a big slave trading city. Khartoum, Zanzibar coast, Tanzania. And they sold blacks for centuries across Africa and the Ottoman Empire. But then when the Turks invaded Europe, they would capture Christian towns, Bulgaria and Albania and Romania, and they would take the Christian boys and make them into their Muslim Janissary soldiers. And then, in Egypt, they were called Mamluk slave soldiers. And so the idea is that the Europeans would pay an annual tribute to the Muslim pirates to leave their country's ships alone. Even Sweden, in the 1600s, some Muslim pirates raided Baltimore, Ireland, round up the whole town, took them to Morocco and sold them into slavery. Dragut Reis. And even the Pilgrims in 1625, they sent a ship full of beaver skins back to England, and William Bradford said the ship was in the English Channel when a Turkish man of war captured it, took it to Morocco, and sold the crew into slavery. And so once America became independent of Britain, the Sultan in Morocco said, "Well, you're not covered under the British tribute payment anymore. You're your own country. You got to pay up.
If otherwise, the Barbary pirates will come after your ships."
Right. And so that's where President Obama said, Morocco was the first country to recognize America's independence. And it's like, yeah, so that they could tax us. And so they were capturing our Americans and enslaving them. The Polly, these different ships. And so right after the revolution, Thomas Jefferson is sent as an ambassador to France, and he meets with Abdurrahman, the Muslim ambassador. And he's like, why are you enslaving us, our men? What did we do to offend you? And the Muslim ambassador said that, no, it's just written in our Quran that all nations that do not acknowledge Islam authority were sinners. And it was a right and duty to make them slaves. And any Muslim who should die in battle is sure to go to paradise. So Jefferson owned a Quran to figure out what's in this book that makes them want to hate us when we didn't do anything wrong to them. Rather than the news media saying, oh, Keith Ellison swore into office on Jefferson's Quran. Gee, Jefferson must have loved Islam. No, the day after his inauguration as the third president, he gets a demand from the Pasha of Tripoli for $250,000 extortion tribute payment. And Jefferson said, I did the only reasonable thing. I sent in a squadron of our ships.